My granddaughter looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Grandma Josephine, you need to accept reality. You are old, you are confused, and you cannot take care of yourself anymore." She was 26 years old. I had paid for her college education. I had co-signed the loan for her first car. I had held her in my arms the day she was born. And now she stood in my living room, arms crossed, telling me I was too senile to manage my own life. Behind her stood my daughter Lorraine, her mother, nodding in agreement. Next to Lorraine was my son Bernard, looking at the floor, saying nothing. "We have already made the arrangements," Lorraine continued. "Shady Pines has a lovely room available. You will be comfortable there." Shady Pines, I knew that place. A nursing home 45 minutes away. The kind of place where families deposited their elderly and forgot about them. "And what about my house?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Lorraine exchanged a glance with Bernard. "We will take care of it for you, Mama. Rent it out, probably. Use the income for your care expenses." Rent it out. That was the lie they had agreed upon. I knew what they really planned. They would sell it, split the money, and I would die in a nursing home while they spent my life's work. My granddaughter Tanya stepped forward. "Grandma, this is for your own good. You have been forgetting things, leaving the stove on, getting confused about dates and appointments." I had never left the stove on. I had never been confused about anything. But I understood now. They had created a story, a narrative about a senile old woman who needed to be rescued from herself. And they believed it completely. I looked at my family, these people I had sacrificed for, these people I had loved without condition. They looked back at me with pity, with impatience, with the certainty of people who had already made their decision. I could have fought, I could have argued, I could have shown them the truth. But I did not. Instead, I let them believe their own story. "Okay," I said quietly, "if you think that is best." Lorraine's face flooded with relief. Bernard finally looked up, surprised by my easy surrender. Tanya smiled triumphantly. "You are making the right choice, Grandma." They thought I was broken. That was their first mistake. My name is Josephine Adele Marchetti. I am 73 years old. I was born in a small town in Louisiana, married at 22, widowed at 58, and have spent every day since then proving that I do not need anyone to survive. But my family did not see a survivor when they looked at me. They saw an obstacle. A woman standing between them and a house worth nearly $1 million. A woman whose savings account held 3 decades of careful investments. They had created a story to justify taking everything. A story about decline and confusion and helplessness. And I let them believe it. Because the truth was something they were not prepared to hear. I had known about their scheme for 4 months. It started with a phone call I was not supposed to overhear. 4 months ago, I was visiting Lorraine's house for Sunday dinner. After the meal, I excused myself to use the bathroom, but instead of going upstairs, I paused in the hallway when I heard my name. Lorraine was in the kitchen with Bernard. They thought I was out of earshot. They were wrong. "The house alone is worth $800,000, Lorraine was saying. "Maybe more if we renovate before selling." "And her accounts?" Bernard asked. I got a look at her bank statements when I helped her with her bills last month. She has almost $400,000 in savings, plus investments. So we are talking about over $1 million total. At least. I pressed myself against the wall, my heart pounding. "The problem is getting control," Bernard said. "She is not going to just hand everything over. That is why we need to be smart about it. We start by planting seeds, mentioning memory problems, expressing concern, getting the grandchildren on board. Once everyone agrees she is declining, we petition for guardianship. And if she fights it?" "She will not fight. By the time we are done, she will believe it herself. Old people are easy to confuse. We just need to be consistent." I stood in that hallway, barely breathing, listening to my own children plan my destruction. That was the moment I understood. They did not see me as their mother. They saw me as an inheritance waiting to be collected. I did not confront them that night. I smiled through dessert. I hugged them goodbye. I let Bernard drive me home, chattering about the weather and local news. And the whole time, my mind was racing. I had a choice to make. I could fight openly, confront them, threaten legal action, burn bridges that could never be rebuilt. Or I could play a different game. I could let them believe their own story. Let them think their plan was working. Let them grow confident and careless. And while they celebrated their coming victory, I would prepare my counterattack. I chose the second path. It was the harder choice. It required patience, discipline, the ability to swallow my pride and play a role that disgusted me. But I was 73 years old. I had survived a difficult childhood, a challenging marriage, widowhood, and economic hardships that would have broken weaker people. I could survive my own children. Now, if you are still with me, I need to ask you something. Do you know what it feels like to hear your own children talk about you like you are already dead? Like you are just a problem to be solved? Like everything you built means nothing compared to what they can take? If you do, then you understand why I am telling this story. And if you want to hear how it ends, how I turned their scheme against them, then subscribe to this channel. Press that little button. It costs you nothing, but it tells me you want more stories like this. Press the like button too, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss what comes next. Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. Tell me if your family has ever underestimated you. I want to know I am not alone in this. Now, let me continue. Over the next 4 months, I became an actress. When Lorraine called to check on me, I mentioned small confusions, a misplaced key, a forgotten appointment, nothing dramatic, just seeds of doubt that supported their narrative. When Bernard visited, I moved a little slower than usual. I asked him to repeat things. I pretended to be tired. And when Tanya, my own granddaughter, started questioning me about my finances, I gave vague, rambling answers that made me seem uncertain. They bought every performance, every stumble, every hesitation. I could see the satisfaction growing in their eyes, the certainty that their plan was working. But what they did not know was that I was watching them too. I documented every conversation, every suggestion, every lie. I noted dates and times. I saved text messages. I recorded phone calls legally in a one-party consent state. And while they were building their case against me, I was building my case against them. 2 months into my performance, Lorraine brought reinforcements. Her husband Gerald had always been quiet at family gatherings, a background presence, but now he stepped forward, taking a more active role in my care. He started coming to my house once a week to help with maintenance. In reality, he was cataloging my possessions. I found him photographing my antique furniture, my jewelry, my artwork. He thought I did not notice. I noticed everything. "This painting is beautiful, Mama Josephine," he said one afternoon, standing before the oil portrait my late husband had commissioned of me 40 years ago. "Must be worth quite a bit." "I do not know," I said, playing confused. "Samuel bought it so long ago, I do not remember what he paid." Gerald smiled, the smile of a man counting money he had not yet stolen. "Well, it is lovely anyway." I filed away his interest, added it to my records. They thought I did not understand what was happening. I understood everything. The family dynamics shifted during those months. Lorraine and Bernard had always competed for my attention. Now they were united, partners in a scheme to rob their own mother. Tanya had become their spokesperson, the young, concerned granddaughter who only wanted what was best for poor, confused grandma. But there were others who did not fit the narrative. My son Marcus, the youngest, lived across the country. He called me every week and our conversations were different, real. He asked about my garden, my books, my friends at church. He never mentioned memory problems or nursing homes. And my other granddaughter, Tanya's younger sister Denise, had stopped coming to family gatherings. When I asked Lorraine about it, she waved dismissively. Denise is going through a phase. She will come around. But I wondered if Denise had heard the same conversations I had, if she had seen through the lies and chosen to stay away. I filed that possibility away too. Denise might become an ally, or she might be too afraid to stand against her mother. Either way, I needed to be prepared. 3 months in, the pressure intensified. Lorraine started visiting twice a week. She would sit in my kitchen, watching me make tea, commenting on everything. "Mama, you almost burned yourself on that kettle." "Mama, did you forget to take your pills this morning?" "Mama, you left the back door unlocked again. Anyone could have walked in." Each comment was designed to chip away at my confidence, to make me doubt myself, to soften me for the final push. I did not argue. I did not defend myself. I nodded. I apologized. I let her believe she was winning. But inside, I was keeping score. Every false accusation, every manufactured concern, every manipulation disguised as care. They thought time was on their side. They had no idea I was using that time against them. The financial moves came next. Bernard showed up one afternoon with a stack of papers. "Mama, I have been looking at your accounts. Your investments are not performing well. I think we should consolidate everything into a simpler structure." "Simpler?" I asked, feigning confusion. "Yes, one account. Easier to manage. I can help you set it up." He slid the papers across the table. I picked them up, pretending to squint at the small print. What he wanted was for me to transfer everything into an account he controlled. A joint account with his name on it. Once he had access, he could drain it whenever he wanted. "I do not understand all these numbers," I said. "Can you explain it to me?" Bernard smiled patiently, the smile of a man humoring a confused old woman. "You do not need to understand it, Mama. Just sign where I marked, and I will take care of everything." I looked at the signature lines, at the authorization forms that would hand my life savings to my son. And I set down the pen. "My hands are shaking today," I said. "Can we do this another time?" Bernard's smile tightened. "Of course, Mama, whenever you are ready." He left with the unsigned papers, but I knew he would be back, and next time he would push harder. That night, I made a phone call. Not to Marcus, not yet. I needed to keep my allies secret until the right moment. I called my lawyer, Patricia Okonkwo. She had handled my husband's estate 15 years ago and had become a trusted friend. "Patricia, I need your help. My children are trying to steal everything I have." "Tell me what is happening, Josephine." I told her everything. The overheard conversation, the months of manipulation, Bernard's attempt to get control of my accounts. Patricia listened without interrupting. "This is financial elder abuse," she said when I finished. "It is illegal. We can stop them." "I do not want to stop them yet. I want them to think they are winning. I want them to get so confident that they make mistakes." "That is a dangerous game, Josephine." "I know, but I have been playing games longer than they have been alive. I need them to show their full hand before I show mine." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "What do you need from me?" "I need to protect my assets without them knowing. I need a trust, a new will, something that puts everything beyond their reach." "I can do that. We will create a revocable living trust, transfer everything into it, name beneficiaries who are not Lorraine or Bernard. They will not know until it is too late." "How soon can we do this?" "Come to my office tomorrow. We will start immediately." I hung up feeling something I had not felt in months. Hope. The next morning, I told Lorraine I had a doctor's appointment. "Do you need me to drive you, Mama?" "No, dear. I am taking a taxi. You worry too much." Lorraine frowned, but did not argue. She probably thought a confused old woman going to the doctor alone was more evidence of my decline. Let her think that. I took the taxi to Patricia's office. We spent 3 hours restructuring everything. The house was transferred into a trust with Marcus and Denise as beneficiaries. My savings and investments were moved into accounts protected by the trust. A new will was drafted, cutting out Lorraine and Bernard entirely. And Patricia prepared documentation that would be devastating if my children ever took me to court. "Josephine, are you sure about this?" Patricia asked as I signed the final document. "Once this is done, there is no going back." "I am sure. They made their choice when they decided to treat me like a problem to be solved instead of a mother to be respected." "What about reconciliation? Is there any chance?" "They have been planning this for months, Patricia. They have lied to my face. They have manipulated my grandchildren. They have treated me like I am already dead." I looked at her with steady eyes. "There is no reconciliation. There is only survival." I returned home that afternoon feeling lighter than I had in months. The trap was set. My assets were protected. No matter what Lorraine and Bernard tried, they could not touch what was mine. But I was not done. I needed them to make their move, to push for guardianship, to put their scheme on record. And then I would reveal everything. 2 weeks later, they made their move. That was the day they gathered in my living room. Lorraine, Bernard, Gerald, Tanya. That was the day they told me I was confused, that I needed to be in a nursing home, that they would take care of my house. That was the day I said, "Okay, if you think that is best." They believed I had surrendered. They had no idea the war was just beginning. After they left, I sat alone in my living room. The house was quiet, the same house where I had raised my children, where I had nursed my husband through his final illness, where I had built a lifetime of memories. They wanted to take it from me. They wanted to lock me away and pretend I had never existed. But they had made a fatal error. They had believed their own story, the story of a confused old woman who did not understand what was happening. That story was fiction, and the truth was about to destroy them. The next morning, I received a text message from Denise. "Grandma, I know what Mom and Uncle Bernard are doing. I heard them planning. I'm so sorry. Please call me." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I picked up the phone and dialed. "Denise, honey, tell me everything you know." And she did. What she told me changed everything. Because Lorraine and Bernard were not just planning to put me in a nursing home and sell my house. They were planning something far worse. What was the full extent of their scheme? What had Denise discovered? And how far was I willing to go to protect myself? The story they believed was crumbling, and the truth was more devastating than any of them could imagine. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Denise arrived at my house 2 hours after our phone call. She was 23 years old, the younger sister Tanya always overlooked. Where Tanya was loud and confident, Denise was quiet and observant. Where Tanya took after her mother, all sharp edges and calculation, Denise had inherited something softer, something more like me. She sat at my kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she had not touched. "Grandma, I am so sorry. I should have told you sooner." "Tell me now, tell me everything." Denise took a shaky breath. "It started about 6 months ago. Mom called a family meeting. Just her, Uncle Bernard, Dad, and Tanya. I was not supposed to be there, but I came home early from work and heard them talking in the dining room." "What did you hear?" "Mom had printed out documents, real estate assessments, your bank statements, investment summaries. She had everything, Grandma, everything about your finances." I felt a chill run down my spine. How had Lorraine gotten access to my bank statements? I had never given her that information. "She said you were declining rapidly, that you needed to be managed, that the family needed to act quickly before," Denise trailed off. "Before what?" "Before you did something stupid with your money. Before you gave it to charity or left it to someone outside the family." I sat back in my chair. They were not just worried about getting their inheritance. They were worried I might give it away, that I might choose to spend my own money on my own terms. The audacity of it took my breath away. "What was the plan?" First, they would convince you to move to a nursing home voluntarily. That way, there would be no legal fight. Once you were settled, they would get power of attorney. Then they would sell the house, liquidate your investments, and divide everything. And if I did not go voluntarily? Denise's face went pale. Then they would have you declared mentally incompetent. Mom has been in contact with a doctor, someone who specializes in evaluations for guardianship cases. She said he would write whatever report they needed. A corrupt doctor, just like the scheme against Pearl Montgomery. The same playbook, used against another grandmother who was supposed to be too old to fight back. Who is this doctor? His name is Dr. Raymond Fisher. Mom met him through a friend. She has already paid him a deposit. I filed the name away. What else did you hear? Denise hesitated. There is more, Grandma, something worse. Tell me. Dad, Gerald, he has been going through your house when you are not home. He has a key. He made a copy from the spare you gave Mom years ago. Gerald, the quiet son-in-law who had been cataloging my possessions. He had not just been visiting to help with maintenance. He had been coming when I was out. What has he been doing? Looking through your papers, your safe, your closets. He found your original will, the one that splits everything equally between Mom and Uncle Bernard and Uncle Marcus. And Denise looked at me with tears in her eyes. He made a copy, and Mom is planning to use it as a template, to create a new will, one that cuts out Uncle Marcus entirely and leaves everything to her and Uncle Bernard. I felt the room tilt. They are planning to forge my will. Yes, they are going to wait until you are in the nursing home, then file the forged will with the court. They said by the time anyone figures it out, you will be too far gone to contest it. Forgery, fraud, elder abuse. My own children were planning to commit crimes that could send them to prison. And they thought I would never know. I did not react the way Denise expected. She had come to my house expecting tears, expecting shock, expecting a grandmother broken by betrayal. Instead, I stood up and walked to the window. Grandma, are you okay? I am fine, Denise. I have known about most of this for months, but the forgery, that is new. That changes things. You knew. How? I overheard them talking at your mother's house, back in the spring. I have been preparing ever since. Denise stared at me. Preparing how? I have moved my assets into a protected trust. I have created a new will that leaves everything to you and Marcus. I have documented every conversation, every lie, every manipulation. But they do not know any of that. No, they do not. They still believe I am a confused old woman who does not understand what is happening. I turned to face my granddaughter. I let them believe their own story, Denise, and now that story is going to destroy them. That was the moment I understood the full scope of what I was dealing with. This was not just greed. This was not just impatience. This was systematic criminal conspiracy. Lorraine and Bernard had been planning this for at least 6 months. They had recruited Gerald and Tanya. They had paid a corrupt doctor. They were preparing to forge legal documents. They had turned my family into a criminal enterprise. And they had done it all while smiling at me, calling me Mama, pretending to care about my well-being. The betrayal was complete. But so was my preparation. Over the next week, I moved carefully. I called Marcus in California and told him everything. He was furious, not just at Lorraine and Bernard, but at himself for not seeing the signs sooner. Mama, I am flying out this weekend. I want to be there with you. Not yet. I need you to stay where you are. If they see you suddenly visiting, they will know something is wrong. Then what can I do? I need you to contact a private investigator, someone who can dig into Dr. Fisher's background. If he has done this before, and I suspect he has, there will be records. I am on it. And Marcus, do not tell anyone, not your wife, not your children. No one can know until we are ready. I understand, Mama. I will not let you down. I also reached out to Patricia Okonkwo again. The forgery changes everything, she said when I told her about Denise's revelations. That is not just civil fraud, that is criminal conspiracy. What do we do? We need evidence. Hard evidence that they are planning to forge your will. Without that, it is just your word against theirs. How do we get evidence? Patricia thought for a moment. Denise, she was present at their meetings. She can testify to what she heard. She is willing, but will her testimony be enough? It helps, but we need more. We need documents, recordings, something that proves intent. I thought about Gerald and his key to my house, his visits when I was not home, his access to my papers. I have an idea. That weekend, I told Lorraine I was going to visit an old friend in the next town over. I will be gone all day Saturday, maybe overnight if I get tired. Are you sure that is wise, Mama, traveling alone in your condition? I will be fine. Margaret has been asking me to visit for months. Lorraine frowned but did not argue. She probably saw an opportunity, a whole day for Gerald to search my house without worrying about my return. That was exactly what I wanted. On Saturday morning, I packed a small bag and called a taxi. But I did not go to Margaret's house. I went to Denise's apartment across town. And while I waited there, the cameras I had hidden in my house captured everything. Patricia had recommended a security company that specialized in discreet surveillance. Tiny cameras, no bigger than a button, hidden in places no one would think to look. One in the living room. One in my bedroom. One in the study, where I kept my safe. Gerald arrived at my house at 10 o'clock that morning. He used his copied key to let himself in. I watched the footage in real time on my phone, my heart pounding. He went straight to my study. He opened my safe. Somehow he had figured out the combination and began photographing documents. My original will. My property deed. My investment statements. He spent 2 hours in my house, going through everything, making copies, taking notes. And the cameras captured every second. When Gerald finally left, I called Patricia. I have him. I have video of him breaking into my house and going through my private documents. That is exactly what we needed. Send me the footage immediately. What happens now? Now we build the case. Gerald's break-in is evidence of the larger conspiracy. Combined with Denise's testimony and your documentation of their manipulation, we have enough to go to the police. Not yet. I want them to make their move first. Josephine, this is getting dangerous. They are planning to forge your will if they file that document. They will not file it if I am not in a nursing home, and I am not going to any nursing home. But you agreed to go. They think you are moving to Shady Pines next week. I know. And next week, when they come to take me, they are going to discover that I am not the confused old woman they thought I was. The week before my scheduled move to Shady Pines was a performance. I continued playing my role, the slow movements, the confused questions, the grateful acceptance of their help. Lorraine came by every day to help me pack. In reality, she was inventorying my possessions, deciding what to sell and what to keep. This crystal vase is lovely, Mama. We should make sure it goes somewhere safe. Take it, dear. I will not need it where I am going. She smiled and tucked it into her purse. She thought she was stealing with permission. I let her believe that. Bernard came by to discuss financial arrangements. He brought more papers for me to sign. These are just standard forms, Mama, giving me temporary access to your accounts while you are in the facility. I looked at the papers, joint account authorizations, power of attorney documents, the same trap he had tried before. My hands are so shaky today, Bernard. Can you guide my hand? He actually held my wrist and helped me sign. He was so eager that he did not notice I was signing a name that was not quite mine, a slight variation that would invalidate every document. They thought they were winning. They had no idea they were building the evidence I needed to destroy them. 2 days before the scheduled move, Marcus arrived in town. He did not tell anyone. He stayed at a hotel under a different name. He met me at Patricia's office, where we reviewed everything we had gathered. "Mama, this is overwhelming," he said, looking at the stacks of evidence. "They really planned all of this. Every detail. They have been working on this for 6 months." And Denise knew the whole time. She found out at that family meeting, but she was afraid to speak up, afraid of what Lorraine would do to her. What changed? She could not live with herself anymore, watching them plan to destroy her own grandmother. She reached out because her conscience would not let her stay silent. Marcus shook his head. "I cannot believe Lorraine and Bernard, after everything you did for us, after everything you sacrificed." "People change, Marcus. Or maybe they do not change. Maybe they just reveal who they always were." "What happens now?" "Now we wait. They are coming to take me to Shady Pines on Friday, and that is when we spring the trap." Friday morning arrived gray and overcast. I dressed carefully, a simple dress, comfortable shoes, the pearl earrings my husband gave me on our wedding day. I looked in the mirror and saw an old woman, but my eyes were sharp, my mind was clear, my resolve was absolute. They thought today was the beginning of my end. It was actually the beginning of theirs. Lorraine arrived at 10 o'clock with Bernard, Gerald, and Tanya. They had brought boxes, suitcases, a van parked in my driveway. "Good morning, Mama," Lorraine said brightly. "Are you ready for your new adventure?" "As ready as I will ever be." They moved through my house like locusts, packing up my possessions, loading them into the van. They did not ask what I wanted to keep or what I wanted to leave behind. They simply took. I watched from my chair in the living room, saying nothing. "Mama, we should get going," Bernard said after an hour. "The facility is expecting you by noon." "Of course, just let me use the bathroom first." I walked slowly to the hallway bathroom, but instead of going inside, I continued to the back door. Waiting in my backyard were Marcus, Denise, Patricia Okonkwo, and 2 police officers. "She is ready," Patricia said quietly into her phone. I nodded and walked back to the living room. "Actually," I said, my voice suddenly clear and strong, "I have changed my mind." Lorraine froze. "What do you mean, Mama?" "I mean I am not going to Shady Pines. I am not going anywhere." "But we already made the arrangements. The room is waiting." "Then you will have to unmake them." Bernard stepped forward. "Mama, we discussed this. You agreed." "I agreed to nothing. I told you what you wanted to hear, just like I have been doing for months." The room went silent. "What are you talking about?" Lorraine asked, her voice tightening. The back door opened. Marcus walked in, followed by Denise, Patricia, and the police officers. "She is talking about this," Marcus said, holding up a folder. "Evidence of your conspiracy to defraud our mother. Evidence of forgery, breaking and entering, financial exploitation, and elder abuse." Lorraine's face went white. "That is ridiculous. We were just trying to help." "Help yourselves to her money," Denise cut in. "I was at that meeting, Mom. I heard everything you planned, and I told Grandma everything." "You little traitor." "Enough," Patricia stepped forward. "Lorraine Marchetti, Bernard Marchetti, Gerald Holloway, you are all subjects of a criminal investigation. I suggest you do not say anything further without an attorney present." The police officers moved toward Gerald. "Mr. Holloway, we have video evidence of you entering this residence without permission on multiple occasions. You are under arrest for breaking and entering." Gerald's face crumpled. "It was Lorraine's idea, all of it. She made me do it." "Gerald," Lorraine shrieked, "shut up." But it was too late. The dam had broken. I stood in the center of my living room, watching my family fall apart. Lorraine was screaming at Gerald. Bernard was on his phone, desperately trying to reach a lawyer. Tanya was crying, insisting she did not know anything, that she was just trying to help. And I felt nothing. Not triumph, not satisfaction, not even anger. Just emptiness. These were my children, my grandchild, people I had loved unconditionally for decades. And they had become strangers, criminals, enemies. Marcus came to stand beside me. Mama, are you okay? I am fine, I am just tired. It is over now, you are safe. No, I said quietly. It is not over, this is just the beginning. The arrests were made. The investigation was launched. But Lorraine had one more card to play, a secret she had been hiding that would shake everything to its foundation. The story they believed had crumbled, but the truth was even more devastating than I imagined. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The police took Gerald away in handcuffs. He did not resist. He did not argue. He just kept repeating, "It was Lorraine's idea. I only did what she told me to do." Lorraine watched her husband being led to the patrol car, her face a mask of barely controlled fury. Not at the police, not at the situation. At me. "You planned this," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "You pretended to be confused. You let us think you were losing your mind, and the whole time you were setting us up." "I let you believe your own story," I replied calmly. "You created a narrative about a senile old woman who did not understand what was happening. I simply did not correct you." "You manipulative old." "Careful, Lorraine." Patricia stepped between us. "Anything you say can be used against you." Lorraine's jaw clenched. She looked around the room, at Marcus, at Denise, at the remaining police officer who was taking notes. "This is not over," she said to me. "You think you have won, but you have no idea what I am capable of." "I know exactly what you are capable of. I have documentation of every scheme, every lie, every crime you plan to commit. The question is not what you are capable of. The question is what you are going to do now that your plan has failed." Lorraine said nothing. She grabbed her purse and walked out the front door, Bernard trailing behind her like a shadow. Tanya lingered, her face streaked with tears. "Grandma, I did not know. I swear I did not know about all of it. Mom told me you were really confused. She said we were helping you." I looked at my granddaughter, this young woman I had loved since the day she was born, this child I had put through college. "Did you ever ask me, Tanya? Did you ever sit down and have a real conversation with me about how I was feeling, about what I wanted?" She had no answer. "You believed what was convenient to believe. You wanted me out of the way so you could get your share of the inheritance. Do not pretend you were an innocent bystander." Tanya fled the house, sobbing. I watched her go, feeling nothing. That evening, Marcus, Denise, Patricia, and I sat in my living room. The house was quiet. The boxes Lorraine had packed were still stacked in the corner, evidence of the theft they had been planning in plain sight. "What happens now?" I asked Patricia. "Gerald will be charged with breaking and entering. The police are reviewing the evidence for additional charges against Lorraine and Bernard. Conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted elder abuse, forgery if we can prove the will scheme was moving forward." "Can we prove it?" "Denise's testimony is strong. Combined with the video evidence and your documentation, we have a solid case. But what?" Patricia hesitated. "Lorraine is smart. She has not technically committed a crime yet. She planned crimes. She discussed crimes, but the forgery was not completed. The guardianship petition was never filed. A good lawyer could argue that she was just talking, that nothing actually happened. Gerald actually broke into my house. Yes, and he will face consequences for that, but Lorraine could distance herself from his actions, claim she did not know what he was doing." Marcus shook his head. "She orchestrated everything. She cannot just walk away." "I am not saying she will walk away. I am saying it might take time to build a case strong enough to guarantee prosecution. We need to be patient." Patient? I had been patient for 4 months, playing a role that made my skin crawl, watching my children plot against me while pretending I did not understand. I was tired of being patient. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in my bed, the same bed I had shared with my husband for 32 years, staring at the ceiling. I kept thinking about Lorraine's words. "You have no idea what I am capable of." What did she mean? What was she planning? Around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. You think you are so smart, but there are things you do not know, things that will change everything. Sleep well, Mama. I stared at the message, my heart pounding. Lorraine. It had to be Lorraine. What did she know? What was she hiding? The answer came 3 days later. Lorraine requested a meeting, just the two of us. No lawyers, no witnesses. Patricia advised against it. She is trying to manipulate you. Do not give her the opportunity. But I needed to know what she was hiding, what secret she thought would change everything. I will meet her, I said, but I will be recording the conversation. Josephine. This is my decision, Patricia. I have spent 4 months letting them underestimate me. Now it is time to face my daughter directly. We met at a coffee shop near my house, neutral ground. Lorraine was already there when I arrived. She looked different, harder. The mask of the concerned daughter had fallen away completely, revealing the cold calculation beneath. Thank you for coming, Mama. Say what you have to say. Lorraine smiled. It was not a warm smile. You think you know everything. You think you have all the evidence you need to destroy me, but there is something you do not know, something I have kept secret for 45 years. What are you talking about? Lorraine leaned forward. Bernard is not your son. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Bernard is not your biological son. Daddy had an affair. Bernard's real mother was a woman named Helen Crawford. When Helen died in childbirth, Daddy brought the baby home and told you it was a miracle, that the doctors had made a mistake about your pregnancy complications. I felt the room spinning. That is impossible. I remember being pregnant with Bernard. I remember giving birth. You had a miscarriage at 5 months. The doctors told Daddy you might not survive the blood loss. While you were unconscious, Helen went into labor. She died. The baby lived. Daddy brought that baby home and told everyone it was yours. No, that cannot be true. I found the documents last year, hidden in Daddy's old papers, birth certificates, death certificates, letters between Daddy and Helen. It is all true, Mama. Bernard is your husband's illegitimate child, not yours. I sat in stunned silence. My husband, the man I had loved and trusted for 40 years, he had lied to me about a child, about the most fundamental truth of our family. Why are you telling me this? Lorraine's smile widened. Because it changes everything. If Bernard is not your biological son, he has no legal claim to your estate under intestate succession laws. If you die without a valid will, everything goes to me and Marcus, your only biological children. I have a will that can be contested, a will that you created while allegedly suffering from cognitive decline, a will that was drafted by a lawyer you only recently hired. I understood now. Lorraine was not trying to steal from me anymore. She was trying to cut Bernard out of his share. She was willing to destroy her own brother, the man she had been conspiring with, to get a larger piece of the inheritance. You are a monster, I said quietly. I am a realist. Bernard was never really family. He was just Daddy's mistake, and mistakes do not deserve inheritances. Bernard does not know, does he? He thinks he is my son. He has no idea, and if you tell him, I will deny everything. It will be your word against mine, and who is going to believe a confused old woman? She stood up, gathering her purse. Think about it, Mama. You can continue fighting me, and I will drag this through the courts for years. Or you can accept the truth and work with me. Cut Bernard out. Give me what I deserve, and this can all be over. She walked out without looking back. I sat in that coffee shop for a long time. My hands were shaking. My mind was reeling. Bernard was not my son. The child I had raised, the man I had loved despite his betrayal, he was not mine. And my husband, my beloved Samuel, had lied to me for our entire marriage. I did not know what was true anymore. I did not know who to trust. But one thing I knew for certain. Lorraine thought she had found the weapon that would defeat me. She was wrong. That evening, I called Marcus. I need you to find something for me. Documents about a woman named Helen Crawford. She would have died around the time Bernard was born. Who is Helen Crawford? I am not sure yet, but I need to know the truth. Mama, what is going on? Lorraine told me something today. Something about your father. Something about Bernard. I need to verify it before I say anything more. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Okay, Mama, I will find out what I can. It took Marcus 3 days to uncover the truth. Helen Crawford had been real. She had died in childbirth 68 years ago, the same month Bernard was born. But the rest of Lorraine's story was a lie. Bernard was not Helen's child. Bernard was mine. The documents Lorraine had found were forgeries, created by someone, probably Gerald, to support a false narrative. A weapon Lorraine could use to divide the family and manipulate the legal system. Marcus found the hospital records from Bernard's birth, my name on the admission forms, my name on the birth certificate, my signature on the discharge papers. He also found Helen Crawford's real death certificate. She had died of tuberculosis, alone, unmarried, childless. Lorraine had constructed an elaborate lie, and she had delivered it with such conviction that I had almost believed her. That was the moment I understood the true depth of my daughter's corruption. She was not just greedy, she was not just manipulative. She was willing to destroy reality itself to get what she wanted. I did not confront Lorraine with the truth. Instead, I let her believe her lie had worked. I played the part of the shaken, uncertain old woman she expected. I called her the next day. I have been thinking about what you said, about Bernard. And I need time to process it. It is a lot to take in. Of course, Mama, take all the time you need. She sounded triumphant. She thought she had broken me. She had no idea I was gathering more evidence, more documentation of her willingness to lie, to forge, to destroy anyone who stood in her way. A week later, Patricia called with news. We have everything we need. Lorraine's fabricated documents about Bernard. The original hospital records proving Bernard is your biological son. Her recorded conversation where she admits to creating the false narrative. Is it enough? It is more than enough. Lorraine is facing charges of fraud, forgery, elder abuse, and conspiracy. Combined with Gerald's breaking and entering and the evidence of their nursing home scheme, they are both looking at serious prison time. What about Bernard? Bernard has agreed to cooperate with the investigation. He is devastated by what Lorraine tried to do, not just to you, but to him. He says he had no idea about the forged documents claiming he was not your son. Do you believe him? I believe he was a willing participant in the original scheme, but I also believe Lorraine was manipulating him, just like she manipulated everyone else. She used his greed to make him complicit, then planned to betray him at the end. I thought about my son, about the man who had sat in my kitchen, trying to trick me into signing over my finances. He was guilty, there was no question about that. But he was also a victim of his sister's deeper, darker schemes. What happens to him? That is partly up to you. If you want to press charges, he will face consequences. If you want to show leniency, we can work something out. I closed my eyes. Bernard was my son, my flesh and blood, despite Lorraine's lies. But he had also betrayed me. He had been willing to steal from me, to lock me away. What did he deserve? The evidence was complete. The trap was set. But the final confrontation was still coming, a moment that would force me to choose between justice and mercy. And the choice I made would change everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The night before the final confrontation, I did something I had not done in months. I prayed. I knelt beside my bed, the way my mother taught me when I was a little girl in Louisiana, and I asked God for guidance. Not for victory, not for revenge, just for clarity. I had spent 4 months watching my children become strangers. I had documented their lies, recorded their schemes, gathered evidence that would send them to prison. But now that the moment of reckoning had arrived, I felt something unexpected. Doubt. Not doubt about what they had done. The evidence was clear. The betrayal was complete. But doubt about what I should do next. I had the power to destroy them, to send Lorraine and Gerald to prison for years, to drag Bernard through criminal proceedings, to strip Tanya of any inheritance and leave her with nothing but shame. I had earned that power. They had given me that power through their own choices. But did I want to use it? The next morning, I woke with my decision made. I called Patricia and told her my plan. "Are you sure about this, Josephine, after everything they did?" "I am sure. This is the path I need to take." "It is your choice. I will make the arrangements." The meeting was held at Patricia's office. Everyone was there. Lorraine, Bernard, Gerald, Tanya. Marcus and Denise stood on my side of the room. Patricia sat at the head of the conference table, folders of evidence arranged before her. The tension was suffocating. Lorraine sat with her arms crossed, her face a mask of defiance. She had hired her own lawyer, a slick man named Peterson who had been making noise about false accusations and family misunderstandings. Bernard looked broken. His eyes were red. His shoulders slumped. He had not spoken to Lorraine since learning about her plan to cut him out with the forged documents. Gerald sat apart from his wife, as far away as the room allowed. His breaking and entering charges were already filed. His cooperation with the investigation had earned him a potential plea deal, but his marriage was over. Tanya sat alone, crying quietly. She had not spoken to anyone in the family since that day at my house. "Thank you all for coming," Patricia began. "Mrs. Marchetti has asked for this meeting to discuss the future of these proceedings." Peterson leaned forward. "My client maintains that she has committed no crimes. Any discussions about finances or living arrangements were simply expressions of concern for an elderly family member." "Save it, Mr. Peterson," Patricia said. "We have video evidence of Gerald entering Mrs. Marchetti's home without permission. We have recorded conversations where Lorraine admits to fabricating documents claiming Bernard is not Mrs. Marchetti's biological son. We have testimony from multiple family members about the conspiracy to have Mrs. Marchetti declared mentally incompetent." She opened one of the folders. "We also have evidence of payments to Dr. Raymond Fisher, who was prepared to provide a fraudulent evaluation. Dr. Fisher, by the way, is now cooperating with investigators. He has a lot to say about his arrangement with your client." Peterson's confidence wavered. "Whatever Dr. Fisher claims is supported by bank records, email correspondence, and text messages." Patricia closed the folder. "Your client is facing charges of conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted elder abuse, and forgery. Gerald Holloway has already been charged with breaking and entering. Bernard Marchetti is facing potential charges as a co-conspirator." The room was silent. Patricia turned to me. "Mrs. Marchetti, would you like to address the family?" I stood slowly. My 73-year-old body ached, but my spine was straight. My voice was steady. "4 months ago, I overheard my children planning to steal everything I have. My house, my savings, my freedom. They had created a story about a confused old woman who did not understand what was happening, and they believed that story completely." I looked at each of them in turn. "I let you believe that story. I nodded when you called me confused. I stumbled when you expected me to stumble. I signed documents with trembling hands, playing the part of the helpless grandmother you needed me to be." Lorraine's jaw tightened. "But I understood everything. Every whispered conversation, every forged document, every payment to corrupt doctors, every scheme to have me locked away so you could divide up my life like vultures picking at a carcass." I paused. "You thought I was weak. You thought I was broken. You thought that because I was old, I had lost the ability to fight back." I shook my head. "You were wrong." I walked to the head of the table and stood beside Patricia. "I have a choice to make today. I have enough evidence to send Lorraine and Gerald to prison for years. I have enough evidence to drag Bernard through criminal proceedings. I have enough evidence to destroy this family completely. Tanya sobbed harder. Bernard put his head in his hands. Lorraine remained defiant. You would not dare. I am your daughter. You stopped being my daughter the moment you decided I was worth more dead than alive. The words landed like stones. But here is the thing, Lorraine. I am not you. I do not destroy people for pleasure or profit. I do not sacrifice family for money. I do not treat human beings as obstacles to be removed. I pulled out a document from Patricia's folder. This is my final will and testament. It was drafted 3 months ago, witnessed by independent parties, and filed with the state. It is legally binding and cannot be contested. I set it on the table. Under this will, my estate is divided as follows: 40% to Marcus, 40% to Denise, 20% to a charitable trust in my late husband's name. Lorraine's face went white. You cannot do this. I'm your biological daughter. I have rights. You have the rights you earned, and you earned nothing. I looked at Bernard. Bernard, you are not named in this will. Not because of Lorraine's lies about your parentage. Those documents were forgeries, and you are my biological son. You are not named because you participated in a scheme to steal from me. You sat in my kitchen and tried to trick me into signing over my life savings. Bernard looked up, tears streaming down his face. Mama, I am so sorry. I was desperate. Lorraine kept pushing, and I did not know how to say no. Desperation does not excuse betrayal. You had a choice. You made the wrong one. Please, Mama, give me another chance. I will do anything. I studied my son, this man I had raised, this man who had failed me so completely. And I made my decision. I will not press criminal charges against you, Bernard. You will not go to prison for your role in this conspiracy. His face flooded with relief. But you will have no part in my estate. You will receive nothing when I die. And you will spend the rest of your life knowing that you threw away your inheritance for a scheme that was doomed from the start. The relief faded, replaced by resignation. I understand, Mama. I deserve that. I turned to Lorraine. You are different. You did not just participate in this scheme. You orchestrated it. You recruited Gerald. You manipulated Bernard. You paid a corrupt doctor. And when you thought you were losing, you created forged documents to cut your own brother out of the inheritance. Those documents were lies. We have the original hospital records, Lorraine. We have proof that Bernard is my biological son. We have your recorded conversation where you admitted to fabricating the story about Helen Crawford. Lorraine's lawyer put a hand on her arm, trying to silence her. She shook him off. So what? So I tried to protect myself. So I tried to get what I deserved. You were going to leave everything to Marcus anyway. I was just evening the odds. You were committing fraud, forgery, elder abuse, crimes that carry prison sentences. Then send me to prison. Lorraine's voice was venomous. Send your own daughter to prison, destroy your family completely. Is that what you want? I looked at her for a long moment. No, that is not what I want. Lorraine's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Then what do you want? I want you to understand something, Lorraine, something you have never understood. I sat down across from her. When you were born, I held you in my arms and made a promise. I promised that I would love you unconditionally, that I would sacrifice for you, that I would give you everything I had to give. My voice was steady. I kept that promise for 52 years. I paid for your education. I helped buy your first house. I babysat your children so you could pursue your career. I gave you everything a mother could give. And I am supposed to be grateful. You were doing your job. I was doing more than my job. I was loving you, and you repaid that love by trying to steal everything I have. Lorraine said nothing. But here is what you do not understand. Despite everything, despite the scheme, the lies, the forgery, the betrayal, I still love you. I cannot help it. You are my daughter. That bond does not disappear just because you tried to destroy me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out another document. This is a settlement agreement. If you sign it, I will not press criminal charges against you. You will avoid prison. You will keep your freedom." Lorraine grabbed the document eagerly. "What are the conditions?" "You will have no contact with me for the rest of my life. No visits, no phone calls, no letters. If you violate this condition, the criminal charges will be filed immediately." "Fine, what else?" "You will sign a confession admitting to your role in the conspiracy. This confession will be sealed, but it can be unsealed if you ever attempt to contest my will or make any claims against my estate." Lorraine's eagerness faded. "A confession, you want me to admit?" "To everything, in writing, signed and notarized." "And if I refuse?" "Then I will press charges. You will go to trial. The evidence will be made public, and you will spend years in prison." I let that sink in. "The choice is yours, Lorraine. Freedom with confession, or prison with defiance." The room was silent for a long moment. Lorraine looked at her lawyer. He whispered something in her ear. She whispered back. Finally, she turned to me. "Fine, I will sign your confession. I will stay away from you. I will give up any claim to your estate." She grabbed a pen and signed the document with quick, angry strokes. "Are you happy now, Mama? You have won. You have destroyed your family." "I did not destroy anything, Lorraine. You did. The moment you decided to treat me as a problem to be solved instead of a mother to be loved." I stood up. "This meeting is over. Patricia will finalize the paperwork. I never want to see you again." I walked out of the room without looking back. Gerald's case went to trial 2 months later. He pleaded guilty to breaking and entering in exchange for a reduced sentence. He served 6 months in county jail and was released on probation. His marriage to Lorraine ended in divorce. She blamed him for everything, for getting caught, for cooperating with investigators, for not being smart enough to cover his tracks. He did not contest the divorce. He wanted nothing more to do with her. Dr. Raymond Fisher lost his medical license. The investigation revealed that he had provided fraudulent evaluations in at least 7 other cases over the past decade. Families across the state came forward with stories of elderly parents who had been wrongfully committed based on his fake diagnoses. He was charged with fraud and medical malpractice. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. One of his victims' families sent me a letter thanking me for exposing him. They said their father had died in a nursing home, locked away based on Fisher's lies. They had spent years trying to prove he was wrongfully committed. My case gave them the evidence they needed to finally get justice. Bernard moved to another state. He could not face the shame of what he had done. He could not face me. He could not face Marcus or Denise. Before he left, he sent me a letter. "Mama, I know you will never forgive me. I do not deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know that I understand now what I did. I understand how wrong I was. I let Lorraine convince me that you were just an obstacle, that your money was more important than your life, that getting what we wanted justified any means. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I am going to try to become a better person, not because I think it will change anything between us, but because I cannot live with the man I became. I love you, Mama. I always will. Bernard." I read the letter once, then I put it in a drawer and never read it again. Tanya reached out to me 6 months later. She had been seeing a therapist, working through what had happened, trying to understand how she had been drawn into her mother's schemes. "I was so blind, Grandma. Mom told me you were confused, and I just believed her. I never questioned it. I never actually talked to you." "No, you did not." "I am so sorry. I know that does not fix anything, but I needed to say it." I looked at my granddaughter. She was young, easily influenced. Her mother had shaped her worldview, and she had not yet learned to see beyond it. She was not innocent, but she was not irredeemable either. "I am not ready to forgive you, Tanya. I may never be ready, but I am willing to talk. I am willing to listen. That is more than I deserve." "Yes, it is." Marcus and Denise became my pillars. Marcus moved back from California to be closer to me. He bought a house 10 minutes away and visited every Sunday for dinner. Denise finished her degree and got a job at a local nonprofit. She stopped by several times a week just to talk or share a cup of tea. They were the family I had always wanted. The family that had existed beneath the dysfunction, waiting to emerge once the poison was removed. 1 year after that final meeting at Patricia's office, I celebrated my 74th birthday. The party was small, just Marcus, Denise, and a few close friends from church. We ate cake and laughed and told stories about the old days. "Mama, do you have any regrets?" Marcus asked as the evening wound down. I thought about it. I regret that it happened at all. I regret that Lorraine and Bernard became the people they became. I regret the years of love I gave them that they threw away. But do you regret how you handled it? No, I let them believe their own story. I let them think they were winning. And when the time was right, I showed them the truth. I smiled. They thought I was broken. They thought I did not understand. They thought their story was the only story. I looked at my son and granddaughter. But there was always another story. My story. The story of a woman who refused to be destroyed, who fought back with patience and intelligence, who let her enemies defeat themselves. "And what is the moral of that story?" Denise asked. I took her hand. "Never underestimate an old woman. We have lived long enough to know how stories really end." Lorraine kept her word. She never contacted me again. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she had remarried, a wealthy man from another state. I wondered if she was running the same schemes on him. I wondered if history was repeating itself in another family, another house, another inheritance. But it was not my concern anymore. I had done what I could. I had protected myself and those I loved. The rest was not my story to tell. Bernard died 3 years after he moved away. Heart attack, sudden and unexpected, just like his father. I found out from a cousin who still kept in touch with him. She said he had been living quietly, working at a hardware store, keeping to himself. She said he talked about me sometimes, about the regret he carried, about the wish that things had been different. I did not go to the funeral. I could not. But I lit a candle for him that night, and I prayed that wherever he was, he had found the peace he could not find in life. I am 77 years old now. I live in the same house I have lived in for 40 years, the house my children tried to steal, the house that represents everything I built and everything I protected. Marcus visits every Sunday. Denise brings her fiancé around for dinner. We laugh, we talk, we remember. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Lorraine, about the daughter I lost, about the relationship that could never be repaired. I do not hate her. Hate is too heavy to carry at my age. But I do not forgive her either. Some betrayals are too deep. Some wounds never fully heal. What I have found is something different, something between hatred and forgiveness. Acceptance. I accept that my daughter became someone I do not recognize. I accept that I could not save her from herself. I accept that our story ended in separation and silence. And I accept that despite everything, my life is good. I have family who loves me, friends who support me, a home filled with memories and meaning. I let my family believe their own story. I let them think they were winning. I let them build their schemes and tell their lies. And in the end, the story did not end how they thought. It ended with me, still standing, still fighting, still here. If you are watching this story, I want you to remember something. You are never too old to fight back. You are never too weak to protect yourself. You are never too confused to understand when someone is trying to hurt you. My children created a story about a senile old woman who did not know what was happening. They believed that story completely. But I had my own story, a story of strength and patience and quiet determination. And my story won. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Thank you for being here through every twist and revelation. If this story moved you, please subscribe to this channel. Press the like button. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story. And drop a comment. Tell me where you are watching from. Tell me if you have ever had to let someone believe their own story while you prepared to show them the truth. I want to hear from you. I want to know I am not alone. Because none of us are alone. We are all connected by our struggles and our strength. Until next time, take care of yourselves, protect yourselves, and never let anyone write your story for you. You are the author of your own life. Make it a story worth telling.